Hey guys, it's Karalynn, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're picking up on a project that I started a while ago, but I do think it's important to finish. So, I have this idea of having a podcast episode describing in detail what you have to do, the steps you have to take to file a valid lien in every state, right? Um, because, as I said before, lien rights are extremely important to secure the amount that you are owed on any type of construction project. But every state has different rules on how to do that. And if you do it wrong, not only you're not going to get paid, you could actually end up in more damage and having to pay the other side's attorney's fees or the other side's damages. So, also a plug that the Cromeens law firm does lien rights, liens and collections in all 50 states. So, if you need help, you have a particular project that you're owed money on, please give us a call. The number is 713-715-7334, and we can help you out. So first I want to go over, we've already done 22 states that are currently in the previous podcast episodes. I'm going to go over those real quick so you know where they're at. Florida is episode 22. Louisiana is episode 24. Ohio is episode 26. Colorado is episode 28. Arkansas is episode 30. Utah is episode 32. New York is episode 35. Wyoming is episode 37. Alabama is episode 39. Arizona is episode 41. Wisconsin is episode 43. Georgia is episode 47. Mississippi is episode 49. Illinois is episode 51. Massachusetts is episode 53. Tennessee is episode 57. Pennsylvania is episode 59. California is episode 61. Idaho is episode 63. Michigan is episode 65. New Hampshire is episode 85. And Nebraska is episode 123. And today we're going to talk about Oklahoma lien rights and what you'd have to do to file a valid lien in Oklahoma. Like I said, every state is different. It's like 50 ways to do the exact same thing, but knowing what they are for each state, especially if you're, new to construction, you're just starting, or if you're thinking about working in another state, or you just want to know the lien rights of your state so you can be prepared in advance. Okay, so let's start with lien rights in Oklahoma. So first, anyone who provides labor or material to improve a property is entitled to lien rights. Okay, so you can file your lien against the property. And so what a lien is it's a security interest. So when you most think like liens against the property, you think about a mortgage, right? You buy a house, a bank gives you a loan, a mortgage company gives you a loan, they take back a lien on your house. In most states, it's referred as to a deed of trust, right? If you don't pay, they will enforce their lien and kick you out of the house and sell the house to satisfy the loan. The mechanic's lien is kind of the same way, except it's involuntary. They don't sign on it. You file it, nobody agrees to it. In order to, and your ultimate remedy is the foreclosure of the property to satisfy your lien, right? And so because it's not a voluntary liening, meaning the person you're liening is not signing off on it, there's different steps that have to be taken to get the security interest in the property. So Oklahoma liens, everybody who improves the property is entitled to a lien. Material suppliers must prove that the material they supplied was actually used at the project, right? There is a base rule that says if you delivered the materials to the project, it's prima facie, or that it's proven that the materials went there until somebody can disprove it, right? Like if they can show that actually, no, those materials are across the street and they have proof of that, then you wouldn't be entitled to a lien for the materials that were not actually used on the property. Oklahoma is one of the states that requires a pre-lien notice. And I kind of like the idea of a pre-lien notice. And so a pre-lien notice is something that you send when you're not owed any money, but you're saying, hey, if it comes to the point that I am owed money for materials or labor that I supplied, I'm going to move forward with a lien. So the notice, the purpose of that notice is to give the GC and the owner notice of everybody who's supplying labor and materials in that project, so they can make sure before payments issued to a general contractor or to a subcontractor that they have paid their subs or their material suppliers, right? And so it really gets the owner and the GC the attention to know everybody who's working on the job that will file a lien if they're not paid, right? So in Oklahoma, you have to send the notice, a pre-lien notice, within 75 days of first work or the first time you supply materials, right? So day one, you drop off materials, you start work. Your pre-lien notice is due within 75 days of that first date that you started work, right? Okay. And the notice has got to be sent to the owner and the GC, right? Okay. It must state that the statement must state that it is a pre-lien notice. It's not a lien, but you're sending it just in case. And there's a form we can provide to you that you would send out within 75 days. It must state that this is a pre-lien notice. Must state the name, phone number, and address of the person sending the pre-lien notice, the person who is preserving their rights to file lien. So, if you're the one sending it, would be your name, address, and all of that information. The date that you began supplying in materials, labor and materials on the project. A description of the labor and materials that you're providing. The name and address of the person that hired you. I would also include the name and the address of the general contractor if that is not who hired you, so that they know. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to send it to them as well, but that way they're on the notice. Address and legal description of the property that you're working at. The statement of the amount of material supply or work that you're going to do. So for contractors, you have a contract amount that you're hired to do. Obviously, there's some variation. That's all right. For material suppliers, you got to make an estimation of the amount of materials that you're going to supply to let them know. And the signature of the person sending the letter. So that all has to go out by certified mail within 75 days of first work. What happens if you don't send the notice 75 days? Okay, so say you started work, you send the notice 80 days after you started work. That means the first 5 days that you worked, you wouldn't be entitled to lien rights for the work done in those first 5 days, right? Because it's only good for work that's within that first 75 days notice. So if you don't ever send a pre-lien notice in Oklahoma, you won't have lien rights, right? So it's very important in Oklahoma to know that you have to send this pre-lien notice within 75 days of first work, or you don't have lien rights at all, right? So, obviously, you can always send it earlier than the 75 days. There's no punishment for that. Sending it late is when you get punished. Okay, so for a general contractor who's working directly for the owner, they have to file their lien within 4 months of last work, right? And the lien will have to have the legal description, the amount that they're owed, a description of the work done, the date the pre-lien notice was sent, and it's got to be filed with the county clerk, right? Okay. Then for a subcontractor or material supplier or sub, they must file their lien within 90 days of last work. Okay. So it's got to be filed. And when you file it with the clerk, it's filed against the property, right? Within 5 days of the lien being filed, the clerk will send a notice out to the owner. I would highly recommend that you send your own notice of the lien that you filed to the owner and the general contractor, although it's not required. But I do think that it's just an extra step that you could take to protect yourself, and also will get you closer to collections, right? The point of liens is not to file a lien, right? The point of the whole lien process to make sure you get paid so you don't have to file a lien. So sending notice early, filing your lien early. You can file a lien early if you know that there's an issue. There's no problem with that. You just can't do it late. So the earlier you send it, the more likely you are to get paid. Or the earlier you file, in this case, the earlier you file your lien, the more likely you are to get paid. And why is that? Is that because the earlier you send your notice, it's more likely that the owner will have the funds that are owed to the general contractor that they can pay you out of. And if you're a material supplier or a subcontractor, it's more likely that the general contractor will still have the funds that are owed to the subs to pay you out of. It's always easier to get paid if somebody doesn't have to pay twice, right? You're going to have pushback if the GC's already been paid and then they get this notice and you're unpaid and they have to pay twice, right? If you can send your notice early, if you know that there's an issue, you can file it early. If you know there's an issue, you're more likely to get paid. So just know that. All right. You have 1 year to file suit to enforce your lien. So this is a lawsuit that says I'm foreclosing the lien. Like I said, the ultimate remedy of the lien is to file suit to enforce the lien, which would eventually be the foreclosure, the sale of the property to satisfy the amount that you're owed. That rarely happens, but that's the ultimate remedy. Usually you get paid well before then. In Oklahoma, you can recover your attorney's fees if you have to file suit to enforce the lien, right? And so if you don't file suit within that 1 year, your lien will expire and will no longer be good, right? Because we can't have things hanging around forever. So that is to say that you have to send a pre-lien notice, right? And you have to timely file your lien. Like I said before, all of these things you can do early, you just can't do them late. So if you need help with liens in Oklahoma, give us a call. I'm licensed in Oklahoma. So if you need help, let us know. If you have questions of how this particular state works, let us know. Like I said, these steps absolutely have to be followed exactly. If not, you're not only will you not get paid, you might get sued to remove your invalid lien and have to pay the other side's attorney's fees. So, or damages, or there's no telling. So it's very, very important that this is done correctly. So if you have any questions, give us a call. Thanks, guys.